Rev up your engines! Today, due to popular demand, I'm going to give you a course in Scan Tool 101 to show things you can actually use yourself to either figure out what's wrong with your car or figure out whether you should buy a used car you're looking at or not. Now, sure, modern cars are complicated, and under the hood, there's all kinds of electronic computer controls that this machine can tell you about. Now, if only you knew what all that information meant, well, I'm going to show you right now. All modern cars have data link connectors. This plugs into them. In this case, it's right here. Of course, you gotta do it right side up. Make the smiley face go that way. There we go. Then the machine boots up. And while it's booting up, there's a zillion scan tools out there. You don't have to buy a $5,000 one. You can get $50, $60 ones. If you're really serious about working on your car, analyzing stuff, you can get one of those blue drivers that costs about 99 bucks, goes onto your cell phone, and does some real serious analytics. So you don't have to spend all that much money to learn what you're gonna learn right now. Now, this particular Nova is a good one. It does a lot of stuff automatically. You can see all those little green circles? That means that everything is perfect for the OBD2 monitors. If there was a problem, one of them would be red. This means that all the MIL lights are completed. MIL stands for malfunction indicator lamp. If any of those are red, it means there's a problem. Let's say you had a problem, you fixed it, and you erase the code with these will erase the code. When they erase them, the mills all start from zero and have to be completed. And until all the drive cycle is completed, some of those will not be green. That tells you a lot about a car. If they're all green, it's generally in pretty good shape. In order for them all to be green, the computer in a car does all kinds of tests, and when it decides the car's good, it makes each mill totally green. Let's say you got a car that hasn't been worked on lately, hasn't had the battery replaced, and they're not all green. Some are what are said not ready or not complete. Well, a mill that's not ready or not complete means that the computer hasn't satisfied itself that that part of the car is working perfectly. And a lot of times you can get a no man's land. Let's say you got a car that has a weak catalytic converter. So the catalytic converter tests, they don't fail because it's not really bad, so it doesn't trip the code for bad catalytic converter, but the converter isn't good enough to make it pass. Then you're in no man's land. You're in a twilight zone where your mill will not complete, but it won't trip a trouble code. And I often see that in cars when they get older. So let's say you're looking at a used car, you plug it in and it's got a mill that's incomplete, but it doesn't trip a trouble code. With a vehicle like that, you'd want to drive it an hour or so. And if it still stayed incomplete, I wouldn't buy the car. It's got a problem that isn't bad enough to trip the code, but isn't good enough to pass. So that's kind of a hidden problem that, in my opinion, I wouldn't buy a car like that. There's plenty of good cars out there. You wouldn't want to buy them, even though the check engine light is not on. The mill itself is incomplete. Show you what that looks like. I'll turn the car off, then I'll turn the key to the on position not running. And I will go to erase codes. Okay, erase codes, erasing them, and now it's erased them. So now we start the car and we check the mills. See how these are flashing red? That's because the catalytic converter, the evap system, and the oxygen system has not completed its mills. So let's say you're looking at a used car, it's got a problem. Maybe the guy just erased the code. Well, if you plug in a scan tool and you see these mills flashing red, I would not buy the car until I drove it at least an hour on a highway, some in the city, stop and go, and see if the lights would complete themselves and not be red and flashing anymore. Then I would also recheck it for trouble codes, because a lot of times if they reset them, those are flashing. When they stop flashing, then a trouble code pops up, and then you would want to buy the car. So they're very handy tools in checking a used car, but let's say you want to fix your own car. The data in these things is unbelievable what you can get. Now let's say your check engine light is on and you have a code. Realize that these codes are relatively generic. So let's say you got an oxygen sensor code. It doesn't necessarily mean the oxygen sensor is bad. You got to go a little bit further, and with these machines you can easily do it if you understand what you're looking at. As we'll see here, we'll check out live data, and you're going to get all kinds of live data. What we really want to look at is the oxygen sensor data if you have an oxygen sensor problem. So we'll scroll down and we'll go to the graph of the oxygen sensor. Now you can see the oxygen sensor here is going up and down as we rev it up. This is a good test. If you rev it up, see how it goes up and down like waves in the ocean. That's what they're supposed to do, go up and down. You need the action of it going rich to lean. That's how it works. You rev it up, it's going to change it. It's supposed to do that. Goes up, then it goes down. I fixed a Honda the other day that had an oxygen sensor code. When I plugged in the machine, and I looked at the data for that oxygen sensor, bank 1 sensor 1, which in a 4-cylinder engine is the one that's right on the exhaust, right after the engine, it flatlined. The graph just stayed the same. When I revved it up, it stayed the same. It didn't go up or down. So I put an oxygen sensor on. As soon as I started it up with the new sensor, it went up and down like it should. Then the guy got his car inspected and didn't have any more problems. That was a very simple fix. It can get more complex, but first thing you want to do is look at a graph of the oxygen sensor. If it's not going up and down, there's some kind of problem with it. If it flatlines, you got a pretty good idea that it's dead. This is why you want a little bit better scanner than a real cheap one, because see, the cheap ones will just show the output. But these, when you push graph, you get an actual graph. And then you can watch the graph go up and down. It's a lot easier to analyze a graph than it is raw data. You can see it's going up and down. With the data, it's kind of hard to tell. So if you're serious, you want a graphing scanner, but there's so many of them out these days. I've seen $50 ones that do graphing. But like I said before, I do have to say the Blue Driver, the one that you use with your phone, you can use it with any phone app, but I find they work best with Androids. Realize car analytics aren't that great with Apple, but the Androids do a really good job. You get a cheap Android used phone for 25, 50 bucks. It'll work the system. It's not that much memory that it uses. Then you get the graph ability. You can get a lot more information with the graphs. Now the next thing you can use this to analyze is fuel trim. The short-term fuel trim is what's happening right away. And in this case, it's adding 2.3% fuel. And long-term, it's adding 3.9% fuel. Now 0 is perfect. This is a 15-year-old car. To have it that close to perfect isn't bad at all. Means it's running a little bit lean and it's adding a little bit of fuel. This thing gets phenomenal gas mileage, so I don't care that it runs a little bit lean. Doesn't bother me in the least bit. And another thing to watch is your ignition timing. In this case, it's staying at 14, 14.5, 13.5. It's almost always exactly 14, 13.5. Now you're always going to get a little vacillation like that, 13.5, 14. That doesn't mean much. But I had one here the other day. It would go 16, 12,
14, 16, 12.
That's too much. And what does that tell you? Of course, it tells you there's a problem with the ignition timing, but in many older cars, it means that your timing chain inside here, or your timing belt, is worn. Now, when you accelerate, your ignition timing advances and changes, but just sitting there idling, it should stay relatively stationary. But if your timing chain is worn, then the timing is going to keep changing because the chains don't allow the camshaft sensor and the crankshaft sensor to read correctly. They'll give incorrect readings because the chain isn't tight, it's loose, and it's flopping around. And then you'll see the timing changes radically. Like I said, you might get 12, 16, it'll move back and forth. And that generally means in an older car, you need a new timing belt or a new timing chain. Now, of course, with anything else these days, it's never that simple. You could even have a problem with your ignition coil on number 1 cylinder. And since it wasn't firing right, that's going to make the timing on the number 1 be odd. So there are other things that can happen, but at least you know what to look at. You know that the timing on number 1 is off. So what you could do in that case is a very simple thing that I've done for years. You take the stupid beauty cover off, you take off the number 1 ignition coil. This is the front of the engine, number 1's always in the front. And you'd put the number 1 ignition coil on a number 3 and a number 3 coil on a number 1. Then you'd retest the ignition timing on a number 1 cylinder using the scan tool. If it still was way off, you'd know it's not the coil that's causing it, it's the engine, the timing chain or something's worn inside. If then it was more stable, you would know you had a bad ignition coil. So all you'd have to do is buy an ignition coil. These scan tools save you time, money, and gives you an analytical ability. Really can blow your mind if you start using your imagination. Because really, I'm a professional mechanic. I have freeze therm oscilloscopes, all kinds of stuff. But actually testing these coils under various parameters is a very complex thing that can take hours. All you gotta do is swap one to the other and back, and if the problem goes away, you know the coil's bad. And of course, with good scan tools like this, you can do all module scans in a very short period of time. It knows what car it is, you push yes, and then it will scan absolutely everything. Look, ABS, cruise control, you name it. Testing it would take a guy like me who's been working on cars for 53 years, hours and hours and hours. In this case, it took just a little over a couple minutes. No codes, no codes, no codes, no codes. Like I said, these are invaluable if you're buying a used car. They check them out so fast. They can't hide from the computer. And when you're working on your own car and you don't know what the problem is, zoom. these things are going to figure them out pretty fast. And these machines are a lot smarter than you might think. Watch this. Okay, we're going to check the ABS. ABS, it's checking the ABS. And what does it say? Communication error, unable to establish communication. What's wrong? Well, nothing is actually wrong because this is a Toyota Matrix that was made in Cambridge, Ontario. It never came with ABS. It's just got regular brakes, which I like because old Scotty knows how to drive. I don't need no stinking ABS. The machine knew the system wasn't there. It did say communication error, but that's because it was trying to communicate with something that doesn't exist on the car. If it did have ABS, it'd give you all kinds of information about it. And modern goods scan tools, they can even check your battery and alternator. Not only can they check actuators and stuff, look it up. Battery alternator test. Here we go. Battery test. Parking brake is on. All right. Now it's testing the battery. Tells you to turn on the headlights. Turn on the headlights. Now it's testing. Whoa, it does take 20 seconds. It tells you to turn off the headlights. Off they go. Start the engine one time. It shows you the battery's fine. Now we'll test the alternator. Turn on alternator test. Says engine needs to be running. Start the engine. Turn on your headlights. Start it up. Turn on the headlights. Continue. Then increase the engine speed above 2,000 RPM. Easy enough to do. Until this countdown goes to 0. It's another 20-second test. Some magic thing about 20 seconds here. That will remain a mystery to me. Turn the headlights off. Charging voltage within specification. Realize that modern cars, everything's run by computers. If you got a problem, my advice is, before you do anything, test the alternator and the battery, like I just did. Because I've seen people spend thousands of dollars replacing all kinds of things, only to find out they had a bad battery or alternator, and that was the root of all their electronic problems. These scan tools can do an awful lot these days, so you can actually do things yourself. Do you really want to pay a mechanic $140 an hour to do stuff that you could do yourself? I don't think so. And look what these good ones can do. They can actually test the clutch relay for the AC, the fuel pump, ejector volume, purge valves, oxygen sensors. Modern technology to fix modern technology. You gotta have this kind of stuff on modern cars. And as you've seen, it's a lot of stuff you can actually do yourself. And let's say you get a little stumped. You can always ask me on my website. You can watch any of a zillion videos on YouTube to pinpoint what's going on. And once you learn something, knowledge is power. And if you're like a lot of people thinking, oh, if I mess with the electronics in the car, I could ruin something. Hey, the scan tool, what does it do? It plugs in under the dash here. That's the only connection you're making. You're not probing electronics or shorting things out electronically. All you're doing is plugging a scan tool into that port. But that said, don't go out and buy one of these $12 Chinese scan tools. Some of them are made wrong, and you plug this into your computer, away it goes. That's why I tell people, if you want to spend 99 bucks, get one of those blue drivers. Canadians design them. Yes, they're made in China, but they're made correctly. I've never seen anybody have a problem plugging one into a car. But the really cheap ones, $10, $12 ones, if they're made wrong and they short your computer out, so you want to get a decent one. You're going to pay a mechanic $140 an hour. So if you get a $99 scan tool, hey, what a bargain. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.